We shall now be talking about some of the common libraries used in C++ and just a walkthrough of the different library functions. We are not going to go in any detail into any of the library functions. As you begin to use them, or you have a chapter called as C library functions, we shall be taking a look at them a little more in depth. At this point, you just need to know what are the library functions commonly available: mathematical, character, string, and for input, output. This is going to help you when you're writing code. So, if you want to use the math library functions, like say for example, cos of x, sine of x, tan of x, log of x, square root of x, absolute value of x, power of x comma y, that means x raised to the power of y. All these function declarations are found in math.h. If you are using the standard C++, it is cmath. Since we are not using a standard version of C++, we are using Turbo C++, which is a non-standard C++, we are going to include math.h. Math.h contains the declaration of all these particular functions, sin x, cos x and all. So all the trigonometric functions or any of these functions accept data which is of the type double and return a value which also happens to be in double. Now when you're doing the sine, cos, tan and all these things, you need to understand that the value of x happens to be in radians. It is not in degrees. Now let's take a look at some of the character functions. Character functions act on a single character. For example, ISAL NUM. This tells us if a single character sent to this particular function is a letter or a digit. So if it is a letter or a digit, it will return a non-zero number. If the character happens to be special symbol, okay, like a question mark and all, it's going to return a 0. Now this is alpha, will tell us whether a given character is alphabet between A to Z, otherwise it will return 0. Is digit, as the name indicates, it will tell us whether the character, single character I am talking about, not more than one character, is a digit or not between 0 to 9, otherwise it gives a return value 0. This tells us whether a character is lowercase. This tells us is upper, tells us if the character is uppercase. To upper converts a lowercase to upper. To lower converts a lower to uppercase. If it is not required, it won't convert. So the declaration of all these functions is found in a header file called ctype.h, also called as cctype in standard C++ library. So these are some of the functions which we shall be using over a period of time. These functions act on a single character. All right. Now let's take a look at some of the string functions. All right. String functions are functions which act on or which work on strings. What is the example of a string? Let's say your name is Ravi. Okay. Ravi in double quotes is an example of a string. So let's keep this here and let's try to get the other functions also. All right. Cover this up, it's not required at this point of time, and let's focus our attention on string functions. What are string functions? String functions are functions which work on string. For example, suppose I want to know Mahant, M-A-H-A-N-T, how many characters are there in Mahant? Okay, there are 6 characters in Mahant. So if I say string length of yes, where yes contains my name M-A-H-A-N-T, it is going to return a value 6. Okay. Now string cat, if you want to join one string to other, if you want to join well and come, you want to make them welcome, you can use string cat. If you want to copy one string to the other, you will use string copy. If you want to compare a string, that means if you want to compare, like if you have seen the dictionary, names are arranged alphabetically. That is all achieved by using comparison. For example, how do they compare? Based on their ASCII value. The ASCII value of capital A is less than big A. Therefore, capital A, any name starting with capital A is going to come with any name starting with small a. All right. So if you want, this is when it is comparing strings, it is comparing whether by looking at capital A is different from small a, but suppose you want to ignore, treat capital A as same as small a, then you will use strcmpi, which stands for compare strings ignoring their case. When you say compare strings ignoring their case, uppercase characters are treated the same as lowercase characters. There is no difference between lowercase and uppercase a or b or c and so on. This is, you can reverse a string. This is, you can convert the characters in a string to uppercase. This is convert the characters into a string into lowercase. You do not need to mug up. You just need to have a broad idea of these facilities available. And whenever you're required to use, you can refer a book and then type in. You're absolutely not required to mug up any of these things. All of these functions you'll begin to use when you're writing program, and slowly they'll start making sense for you. So practice is going to make you familiar with them. Now, we are going to talk about some functions which are available in stdio.h or in a library called cstdio in the standard C++ thing. So these are used for basically input and output. Suppose I want to read a single character, I can use getchar from the keyboard. Suppose I want to display a single character on the monitor, I'll use putchar. Suppose I want to read an entire line, I'll use getS. Suppose I want to display an entire line, I'll use putS. So this is character, this is string. So this will read one character at a time, this will read one line at a time, this will print one line at a time. So these are all examples of console means input out, console means keyboard or monitor functions which are used to be used with a keyboard or monitor. So now let's take a look at last but not the least. These are some general purpose library functions. These are again mostly mathematical. These mathematical functions are in a header file called as standardlib.h. std stands for standard, stdlib.h or cstdlib in the standard C++ programming language. Randomizer. Suppose you want to generate random numbers. So first you will need to call a function called as randomize, and when you say random n, it will generate a random number between 0 to n minus 1. This is useful in probability and statistics, this random. A to I, convert characters to numerical values. I to A, convert numbers to characters. So we'll be using a lot of these as we proceed to programming. As of now, if you just understand that these are the common library functions, they are available, we can do all these things instead of writing our own code, that is good enough.